Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with another Victober video. So this is my first Victober vlog. I think it may actually be my only Victober vlog because October is going to be pretty crazy. So I don't know when I will get other vlog time in other than right here at the beginning. So I wanted to go on and start the vlog because, as usual, I have started my Victober early. And I think you will have seen by the time this is posted, you'll have seen that I started my Victober reading Antonina by Wilkie Collins. And historically, that's always a bad choice for me to start with a Wilkie Collins. I go in guns blazing in Victober, and Wilkie Collins being my favorite Victorian author, I tend to want to start with the book of his that I chose for my TBR that year. And it tends to always really be a mistake because his books are really pacey, they're plot heavy, a lot is going on, a lot is moving really, really rapidly. And that then kind of sets the tone for me for the rest of the month. And every year I say I'm going to learn my lesson and I'm going to start with someone else and leave my Wilkie Collins choice for somewhere towards the middle of the month when I'm really craving something a little bit more pacey. But I did a bad thing and I read it first this year. And Antonina was a unique one to start Victober with because it was really out of his comfort zone. To me, it was just a very unique book for him. And it also was kind of unique for me. I haven't read very much Victorian historical fiction, but it was still very fast moving and fun. And thus, I really wanted to go on and move into something else a little bit fast moving and fun. So I've started 2 books. I don't know that I'm going to start anything else until I know for sure that I have finished these things. And so the first thing that I have started is kind of a similar plot heavy book. I feel it's also kind of a mystery similar to other Wilkie Collins novels, and that is Uncle Silas by Sheridan. Fanu. As you can see, I've also already started this. I'm about 150 pages in, and I'm really loving this. I don't want to give it too much early praise when I still have over half the book left to read, but I definitely feel like at this point, I would give this book 5 stars. There's just something really enjoyable about it. This was sold to me as kind of a spooky horror pick. And thus far, there's only been like 1 mention of a ghost. She had a new governess. The main character got a new governess to come in, and she was like, hey, I feel like I'm seeing ghosts around this house. And everyone, including the main character, was like, that's typical. The house is haunted. And that's basically been the only supernatural stuff we've gotten. I get the sense that this is going to be more of a typical Victorian horror, which is kind of like someone coming in and trying to steal your fortune. But it does mean there's a level of intrigue and mystery here that I really truly enjoy. And so I think definitely this is going to be one of the big successes of the month. I am truly loving this. I do think there's quite a bit left, and everything that I knew about the book is at this point over with. I knew one of the main plot points was around bringing in this new governess who was not trustworthy. And I feel as though, for the most part, that is a plot line that has wrapped around 150, 200 pages in. And so I really don't know where this book is going. And I'm glad of that because often classics that are mysteries have been spoiled for me in some way, shape, or form. And I really feel as though I have gone into this one with very little knowledge. And so that's making this very enjoyable to me. I really am excited about carrying on with this. I would love to finish it today. I would love to just sit down and finish reading this today. I don't think it will happen because there's so much left, but I am just so enthralled in this. Every time I pick this up, I am obsessed with it, and every time I put it down, it's a hardship. So I'm just really enjoying this. The first 2 picks of Victober have been very successful for me thus far. I also started my nonfiction pick, which is The Stones of Florence by John Ruskin. Here's the thing about this one. This is art criticism, and this was specifically, I think, a guide. Like, this was a book you as the Victorian traveler could have picked up, and it is assumed, I think, that you are reading this while you are in Florence looking at these art pieces and you want more context for them, because the book is framed in such a way that I have to look up what he's talking about to really understand all of the detail that's involved in it. And so I feel like this is a book that I should have saved and read when I actually am in Florence the next time. So to a certain extent, that means that my enjoyment of it is not what I think it should be, but it's so interesting because the way he talks about art is just very different from the way we talk about art, and how he contextualizes it for the Victorian traveler is very interesting to me. And I really enjoy how he kind of has a conversation with you as the reader, which I think is really funny and cheeky. There's something about reading this that feels as though you are interacting with him as the author, and I love books like that. I feel like he's kind of taking you aside, like he's there with you and you're looking at this piece of art and he's saying, this one's not that great. You want to look at the one that's on the ceiling or something like that. And I think that's really fun and enjoyable. I do just feel as though it's a book that should be enjoyed and read when you were in Florence. I think that's definitely how it was intended. And so I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of it. I don't feel like I'm getting out of it what he would have wanted me to, but I am really enjoying this. It is so short and it is so Giotto focused. I thought that we were going to kind of go through Florence's greatest hits. This book is essentially about Giotto. And I'm fine with that because I also love Giotto. Giotto was a painter and a frescoist. He was also an architect. He really did a lot. In the late 1200s, early 1300s, he is someone who was really just starting the Renaissance, and he was one of Dante's close friends. So I have a real fondness for him. I would be curious to know if John Ruskin has written anything else about Florence, but my other nonfiction pick of the month is his beast, a behemoth about Venice. And so I guess when I finish this, I'm just going to roll on into his behemoth on Venice. I think it's really fun to have a nonfiction on the go, and I really like his writing. His writing is very charming. And that's one thing I have to say about Uncle Silas that I'm also really enjoying. I just think the writing style is so much fun and it's really quotable in places. There are some really beautiful quotes in it. And so this is how my week is starting. I don't know if I will finish either one of these and move on into the next thing, but I will keep you updated. I'm so excited to be filming, I guess, the second vlog of Victober. As you can see, we are in the kitchen today. I am about to cook dinner. I thought I would take you along for the ride because I'm making what I guess people would call a power bowl. I'm gonna make some quinoa, and I have some sweet potato, some broccoli, and some onion to roast in the oven, and then I'm gonna make a honey mustard vinaigrette to go on the bowl. I think it sounds really good. Hopefully it is good. So I thought I would take you along for the ride. But first, I wanted to give a big update here. I said yesterday that I wanted to finish Uncle Silas, and I just didn't think it was possible. Believe it or not, I actually did, in fact, finish Uncle Silas last night. And I basically read this in a fugue state, like I just couldn't put it down. It felt like it started to drag towards that middle section. When I first updated you, I was still really high on it. This book is separated into 3 volumes. So volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Certainly volume 2 is possibly the weakest. Though you get a lot of needed information in volume 2, it just drags. And I just was constantly thinking, what is the point of this? And I think some of that might have been assuaged had I known more about the total plot of the book. I think I said yesterday when I first updated you that essentially everything I knew about the book was wrapped up within the first 150, 200 pages. And so the rest of the time I was kind of at a loss, but I felt as though the vibe had changed and the mystery elements had changed, and it was suddenly no longer very much of a mystery book because I kind of knew some things, but the end more than made up for it. The end was so shocking. It really felt like an Anne Radcliffe novel. Like I truly feel as though this was an ode to the 18th century Gothic novel, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. In my heart, I wanted to give it 5. There are a lot of different reasons why I did not. I didn't give it 5 stars because Maud, as the main character, made a lot of poor and just outright stupid decisions. And I just can't support somebody who is stupid for the sake of the plot, because this was just a case of someone ignoring every sign available to them. Like, multiple people tell you something is going on. Multiple people tell you something is not right. And they're people you trust. So conceivably, their word is something that you would listen to. That is not what happens in this book. This girl just keeps going on, digging her grave deeper. And at certain points with characters like that, I want the bad thing to happen to you. You know, you didn't listen. You did not listen. You did not get out when you had the chance. And that was what was so frustrating here. It also was not a horror novel. And I don't know how I got that interpretation of it. I don't know why I went into it with the assumption that this was about a ghost, because the whole time I'm wondering, I'm like, well, where's the ghost? Is the ghost gonna help her get out of this situation? And then I realized, no, this is not really like supernatural horror. This is like the typical Victorian horror, which is that somebody is potentially going to steal your money. Once I accepted that, I really enjoyed the book and had fun with it. I do feel as though it was quite a bit sensationalist, which made me really enjoy it. And I also just really liked the writing style. Like, there were so many really beautiful quotes in here, but the writing style is another reason that I have to dock it. Something that is a personal pet peeve of mine as a reader, and just something that I really can't handle, I guess, is dialect. And there were several characters in here that were written in dialect. Like, everything they said was in some form of dialect. Like, one character was French, one character was Scottish. A couple of other characters just had clearly never had a classical education, which was a big plot point. But it always slows me down as a reader because I physically have to read those passages aloud. I have no idea what it is and why I can't just read accents or dialogue on the page, but it has always been a problem for me as a reader. So more than a few times, I felt like there were really important scenes that I was kind of missing details of because I wasn't paying as close attention to the dialogue as I normally would. But dialect is just a personal thing for me. I really don't enjoy it. But overall, this book was really fun. And a high recommend from me. I think it really scratches the Halloween itch. I think it is also something that's really nice, pacey, and plot heavy, which I like to intersperse between longer works. So I'm really glad that I wound up picking this one up. I think this was a big success. This is one of my favorite books that I've read for Victober. Truly it is. It's up there for me with Lady Audley's Secret, and maybe The Moonstone, as just like really fun mystery novels that are also just very intriguing in terms of the characterization. I felt really attached to the characters in The Moonstone and Lady Audley's Secret, and that was also the case here. I was just really fascinated by what was going on. There is a character in this that is Maud's cousin Monica, one of my favorite characters I have ever read in Victorian literature. I just adored her. So I did finish this. I also wound up finishing The Stones of Florence today at lunch. And I have mixed feelings about this one. I've rated it 4 stars because I just think the writing was so beautiful. But this is one that I think falls quite a bit because I am not experiencing it firsthand. It is a book that I truly do wish I had waited to read until the next time that I was in Florence. I think it just would have been more rewarding that way. I think I would have gotten out of it what John Ruskin wanted me to get out of it. And it's really interesting how he talked about art pieces because they have definitely changed, like restoration has changed and the style of restoration has changed. And this is something that he was very much frustrated with in the Victorian period, is that the restoration typically tended to ruin the original in the Victorian period. And it was a Victorian artist possibly wanting to show off their own skill. So you were never quite sure when you were looking at a restored piece of art, how much of it was done by, say, Giotto versus the restorer. I think restoration on the whole has changed a great deal, and I think it has become better. And so it's just interesting what his complaints were. But I'm definitely moving into The Stones of Venice. I want to read more of his writing, and I know very little about the art of Venice. What I have is so minimal. I know about Titian. I know about Tiepolo, who did Tiepolo Pink. gorgeous. Veronese, who's very, very famous. There are several big famous Venetian artists that I know, but I don't know enough about like how unique the style is to Venice. I'm just going to be very interested to see what he has to say. But I haven't started that yet. I did go ahead and start Nicholas Nickleby though. I am 20 pages into this and it's very charming so far. I think it might help me to spoil myself here. I sometimes feel this way with Dickens, and not just with Dickens. Sometimes I feel this way with classics. I feel like sometimes going in with knowledge of where the story is going is actually helpful to me because I don't really know what the plot of this is. I do think he's making comments on the Yorkshire schools, which were basically, I think, behavioral schools, which were incredibly abusive and terrible. I know this is a coming of age story for the main character, Nicholas Nickleby. I know nothing else other than that. I just kind of assume it's going to be a typical fun romp through Victorian England that Dickens typically writes, but I don't really know what the tone of this is. I feel like this is more social in scope thus far, just in terms of how he is writing. It feels tonally very similar to Oliver Twist, which though I DNF'd Oliver Twist, that was something that I was really enjoying, was just how he was present as an author on the page, commenting on these social issues. That feels extremely present here. This is so long. It's much longer than I thought it was. And here I was thinking I'm gonna power through multiple Dickens novels this year. This is 800 pages. But I think it's going to be a fun ride. I debated starting with this one. I just thought maybe I should go with another Dickens that's on my TBR. But I think I'm really going to enjoy this, and this does a lot of double duty for me in terms of doubling up on prompts for Victober. It's a coming of age story. It features a character with a disability. So I am tentatively excited about this. I hope to read a little bit more of this tonight, but let's get into cooking dinner. I had not updated you, and I don't know when. It's definitely been a few days. I feel like the last time I updated you was Tuesday, and it is now Saturday. And basically, as usual, the week got away from me. The work week sometimes does. There are many, many days just during the regular work week when I just don't read at all. And so that was certainly the case this week, especially in the second half of the week. But I kind of got back on my game last night, and I am almost 100 pages into Nicholas Nickleby. I'm not living, laughing, loving. I'm just not vibing with this right now. The thing is, it's not a bad book. In fact, I'm really enjoying the writing of it. But I'm not all that engaged in the plot. I'm not all that engaged yet with the characters. And I feel as though part of the reason why I haven't read over the past few days is that this has been the book that I have been reading. When I sit it down, I'm not that excited about getting back into it, which I definitely was with Uncle Silas. Like, I did not want to put that book down, and I felt similarly about Antonina. But I'll say both of those books were shorter than this. I feel like they were a little bit more plot heavy, and this feels very meandering. I feel like it's going to take a long time to get to the point. So part of me just really wants to put this down and shift into something else. I think that might be the best to kind of avoid a slump, and also to really just go on and avoid kind of burning out on Victorian literature. So I feel like I want to put this down and start something else, maybe a different Dickens. But I also think it would be for the best that I kept this one on the go, because it's not bad. I am enjoying it while I am reading it. I'm just not excited about it. I'm not excited to pick it back up. And so maybe I will just shift this one to audiobook. But I picked up a few things on Kindle. I have a couple of my other historical fiction picks on my Kindle, and I think maybe I will switch to that. The rest of my physical TBR is here, and there are so many Dickens books here, and there are so many Dickens options. I also kind of have as an option like Anthony Trollope or something like that, things that weren't necessarily on my TBR, but that I have as an option. But I feel like Anthony Trollope is going to be kind of a quieter story, and I'm just not really in the mood for that. I knew I was going to do this to myself because I do it every single year, and I start off with the books that I am the most excited about, which kind of sets the tone for the month and for the readathon in general for me. And so now I just kind of want to chase that high, and I want to read something else that is very similar to that. And so I don't know what I have on my TBR that will scratch the same itch, but from my physical TBR, I have a few options where I could go. I could go for another Dickens like David Copperfield or Bleak House, both of which I also have on audio, and they're just in general in the Audible Plus category. And I feel like Dickens is a really great one to listen to on audiobook, so that's definitely an option for me. Those both seem like they are more engaging stories than Nicholas Nickleby. Sorry to say. I feel like I haven't given Nicholas Nickleby enough time to get up off the ground and get going, but I also just kind of feel like I'm not in the mood to read it right now, so I don't want to force myself to do it. I also have Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which is one of my more horror-y type picks. And I'm intrigued by that, but it feels pretty short. So I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood for something longer. I have the group read The Mayor of Casterbridge. I'm not keeping up with the reading schedule. I feel like when I read that one, I'm just going to read it straight through. And possibly I'll start that. I'm kind of feeling like that's a good option. So I'll decide what I'm going to do tonight, and I will let you know. I think I'm just going to wrap up this vlog here. It is Monday again, so it's been a week since I started the vlog, and it feels like a good time to kind of shut it down. I have tried to continue on with Nicholas Nickleby, but again, I'm not really vibing with it right now. I think maybe the thing that I should do is just in general take a break from Victorian literature for the next few days, read something current, just to make sure that I don't burn out, which happens to me and has happened to me the past couple of Victobers, sadly enough. So I really want to make sure that I don't burn out this year. But I feel like I have read the books that I was the most excited to read. And I think that's really just changed the mood of the readathon for me. We're also about to head into a couple of hectic weeks for me, so it does seem like a good time to just wrap up the vlog here. I might do another little vlog, and I am excited to read some more. I did last night download another Wilkie Collins book. I am guilty. I'm guilty. And I also downloaded more Sheridan Fanu books. So it may just wind up happening that I go to those and that I read something a little bit more pacey. But I think it's probably for the best anyway if I just go on and take a little break right now. I would love to know down below how your Victober is going. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think this is going to be a good year, but that is going to be all from me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Happy Victober. Goodbye.